And welcome back to this exciting tutorial. Again, we're going to be jumping into our Blade Runner sci-fi city made with particles. Let's get into it. All right, so today, I just want to get you caught up. I've done a few things kind of off camera that you should know about. So first thing that I did was, remember we had our traffic stream that was flowing down into the street and then kind of turning. I never really liked the motion of that. So I got rid of it and I've replaced it with 2 lanes of traffic that are running opposite to each other. So I will show you those. So they're just here. So I got rid of the one that was going down and I added in this one right here and this one right over here. So one's shooting particles this way and the other is shooting them this way in just a straight line. And then what I did was I brought both of those splines. I'll turn it on so you can see the spline. Here they are. And I brought them down so that they intersect with the camera's path. So we're actually flying right through that traffic. And that just makes for a much more dynamic, interesting shot. Really cool. The next thing I did was, if I go into one of my traffic emitters, I changed the size of my cars. So I continued with the randomness scale. So we've got some that are bigger than others, and that's around 0.5 for all of them. But I changed the overall scale to 0.1, and that's just to make them a little bit bigger from what we had before, and that's really helping just to make them show up a little bit more. But again, remember they're just sort of flavor to the scene, and we got to make sure they are a correct scale for the size of our buildings. It's got to all make sense, right? I mean, there's going to be tiny people inside these cars. Imagine them, tiny people everywhere. We don't have to model them, so that's okay. We can skip that. Okay, so let's see. We've got our traffic. That's all set. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was, so one thing that we haven't done that we should go ahead and do is when you select your particle emitter and go down to right here, render, and we've got show emitter ticked, we need to turn those off. So I'll just do that real quick. And basically what that means is the flat plane that is emitting our particles won't show up in the render. And that's important, like just in case if we whip around a corner or something, we might have one of these things in the shot accidentally, and it's just going to show up as this big white square floating in space, which, I mean, it's not going to add to the realism, let's be honest. Okay, so that's all sorted. Great, let's close these guys up. Now, what we're going to do today, big picture, we're going to get some lighting going in this scene. We're going to create some variation in the lights of our buildings and variation in the texture of our buildings. It's a lot to get through, but I think we can do it. So let's get organized a little bit first. So let's just click on Scene Collection and click the Collection button. We're going to create a new one called Traffic. And we're just going to throw all of our traffic collections into that one. And what that's going to do for us is just help us to keep more control of our order of things, so we can just make sure we stay on top of it. Then I renamed our main collection here Camera and Lights. That houses the camera, and I think that's everything I've changed. Okay, so let's get an environment texture in first. So we're going to get an HDRI to use as our environment. So I want to recommend to you, pull it over, HDR Haven. Here it is. This is an amazing website. So basically, Greg here, our hero, is putting out all these free HDRIs, and he just runs it all through a Patreon. So if you're keen on it, jump in there, become a Patreon, support what he's doing, and you'll really get to reap the benefit of these amazing HDRIs. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, an HDRI is it's a high dynamic range image. So it's the practice of photographing a reflective sphere in an environment and capturing a 360 view of a space, and doing it with a raw format. So you're capturing tons of light data, tons of depth in that light data. And then what you do is you use that to light a scene. So what Blender can do is it can look at all these different color values and turn this into one giant light. It's all these color values are now emitting into the scene. And it's just excellent for visual effects and creating realistic scenery and stuff. So what we want is we're going to go find one. I found one earlier under, let's see, Overcast is what we want, because I want to go with a stormy sky. I've thought a bit about this. So we're going to go with this one. And I'll explain my plan. So go ahead and download this image, just click on it, and we're going to go for the 4K. It's probably all that we're going to need. All right, so go ahead and do that, and then I'll catch you in Blender. All right, so back in Blender, and what we want to do is change the background. So we go to the World tab, and we're going to keep the surface set to background. You could set it to anything, which is kind of cool, but we're just going to keep it background. And for color, we're going to change this to an environment texture, okay? This is the same as working in the nodes, by the way. This is the same information. It's just laid out in a different format. So this is basically like we've just created an environment texture node, and plugged it into the color of the material. I could show you what that looks like if we just go to the shader editor and switch to world. You're going to see we have an environment texture now going into our background, which is exporting to the surface. So that's what just happened. So let's go ahead and open it. So just go ahead and load in wherever you downloaded your HDRI to. Just go ahead and open that up into here. Okay, so I've loaded in my HDRI sky texture. So if I switch now to rendered view, we're going to get that image now in our sky. I'm just going to close that out. I'll bring this down just to make things a little bit bigger so everybody can see. Okay, now we don't want to have these mountains in the view. And we're also going to change a couple of things. So just to be clear, so I've got the strength. Make sure your strength is set to 1 for now. We might play with that in a minute. Now, linear is what the color is set to. So it's interpreting this image, the color, as if it's linear. So that means there's no curves applied to it. And that's correct because this is an HDRI, which is a linear raw image. But we want to affect it a little bit. And if we just switch down to, these are all the different types of color spaces to work in. Like we could go to raw and can't really see a difference because it's very similar to linear, whereas sRGB is going to clip some of the information. sRGB is a smaller workspace. So you can see the result, things got a lot darker. We lost a lot of color. But in our case, it's actually looking like we want it to look. We kind of want this dark, stormy sky effect. Next thing we're going to do is get rid of these mountains. So we're just going to rotate the sky. If you picture a sphere, we're just going to rotate the sphere of the sky forward a bit so that these mountains are tucked down below our horizon line. And because we're never looking around the other way, it's not going to cause any problems for us. So let's do that. Open up to our shader editor. There she blows. How cool would it be to do an entire tutorial as a pirate? Leave it in the comments if you'd like to see that happen. I probably won't oblige you if you do want that, but just curious. Okay, texture coordinate and mapping. Mapping. There we go, the classic. We'll go with generated to vector and then vector into vector. All right, now let's rotate the sphere. So we can look up here to our little widget. We want to rotate on the y-axis, right? We want to turn it like that. So let's see, we probably want to go negative. What happens? Yep, you can see that sinking below the horizon. We'll just keep that going down, 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 down. All right, that's pretty good. We'll just do negative 15. That should be safe. But one thing I do feel is it's just way too bright. So we can decrease the strength. Let's do that down to 0.5. Now, if you're clever, you'll notice that our node changed. See, look, changes over here. So it's the same thing, just reiterating that point. Now it looks pretty good. I mean, we could go all the way down to like 0.25, which is probably where it's going to look best in the camera. And you know what we might even want to do is show the camera one thing and show the world another thing, because I don't think that's enough light in our actual world for this. So I think we will do that. Let's set that up. So let's just go for light path node. And we want to ask the question, is the camera seeing this? The answer is yes. We want to show it this color, this level of strength. If the answer is no, we want to show it something brighter. So to do that, we can treat this as a background shader. What we can do is we can go for a mix shader. Okay, so we're going to mix two shaders together. And we're going to use the factor as the camera ray, the first one here. This means if the camera is looking at it, so the camera's firing rays into the scene, whenever it bounces back, shows the camera what it sees, right? So if the camera is firing a ray at something and it bounces back, we want to show it this. So we can plug this one into the first one. Pretty sure it's the first one. We might have to flip it, but then let's duplicate the background, grab color, pipe it in, and then we're going to make this one 0.5, make it a bit brighter. and we'll put that into the second one, and now we'll put this shader here. All right, see what happens. Okay, we got a flip-flop. So you saw how the sky went brighter. So that meant that we were showing the brighter one is what's shining through if it's a camera ray. So if we just flip these nodes, now we'll get the darker sky up here, but the lighting is going to be coming from the brighter version. So if I pump that to 5, you'll see that our world blows up with light where the sky stays the same. So that is a handy little trick. Okay, so now we just need to pick a value that matches well with what we want to go for with our look. I'll bring that down, and we can bring this over. Let's select our camera and lights collection, and we're going to hit Shift A and go down to Light, Sun. And we can also get back into solid mode. Now let's go find that lamp. Where are you? There he is. Okay. So I'll grab him on the X just so we can see him. Now, of course, the magic of sun lamps is that it doesn't matter where it's positioned. That doesn't affect anything. It's basically an infinite line rotating, pointing in the direction that you rotate it in. So the only thing that matters about a sun lamp is the rotation value and the overall brightness, so the strength, which comes from here. The angle is important too, but we'll talk about that in a second. So I want to shoot a light kind of across the scene, almost level with the horizon, to really pick up the geometry. Because right now, if you look at our rendered view and we turn the sun lamp off, it's all a bit uniform. It's kind of losing itself. It's better now that we've got this variation in the lighting from the HDRI, but it could be a little bit better, I think. Maybe not. We're about to find out. All right. You might wonder how much I script these beforehand, and I'm not going to tell you. All right, so let's see. We're going to rotate on the Z negative. No, rotate on the Z 90. So we're pointing dead on towards the camera. And now we're going to rotate on the Y down just a little bit. And I might just bring it around a little bit on the Z axis. You might find it easier to open this up and use the actual handles because you can just drag and move it. But I'm happy not doing that. You can get rid of it by hitting the T key, by the way. Okay, so you can see this sort of picks up some nice highlights on things. Looks pretty good. I might turn the strength up just so we can see it. Up to 10. Now we can really see what's being affected. Okay, yeah, cool. So we're getting light all the way out here. All these things. The side of the building is really getting hit. That's good. Now, the angle is, I'll go back to 10 so you can see the difference. Angle is kind of like, it's supposed to be okay, there's the tooltip. So angular diameter of the sun is seen from the Earth, which, that's very clear what it's going to do just by reading that. Because we're all astrophysicists, aren't we? Thanks, Blender. Okay, so the layman version of this is if we increase this number to, say, 1, it's going to diffuse the light more and kind of wrap around things a bit. So like 10, it's going to really flatten out that light. We're going to get a lot less, much softer shadows. This is sort of the effect, right? So that light's now kind of peeling around things and it's lighting a lot more softly. But I don't want that. I like the default value. I think that looks pretty good. So we're going to keep it at that. And we're also going to drop this down. Drop it down to 1, and just to enhance the overall mood of the scene, we're going to go just a touch blue. Now, you might be wondering about the mood, because, we started off with this plan of doing this sort of orange sky thing, of lots of dust and smoke in the air, and, that was the vision. That was where we were going with it, but I've been living in Australia for the past, 4 months, and I'm a bit over smoke. The bushfires, they've been a bit hectic, so if you haven't had a chance to, look at possibly supporting any of the organizations raising money right now to stop the bushfires, please consider it. They've made a massive impact on everyone's life here, and it's been pretty crazy. Some of these days, the smoke that we're getting, even the areas that aren't being affected by the fires, we're living with a daily level of smoke that's the equivalent of smoking about 10 packs a day. So it's pretty intense. I got a family. It's not something I want to be in. So we're having a hard time with that. But thankfully, it's raining today, which is awesome. Love a bit of rain. And so that's the direction we're taking the scene. We're not going smoke, because I'm done with smoke. We're going rain. So we're going to have kind of a rainy, wet, dark, cloudy day scene. I'm not in the mood for dystopia. Okay, so that's that. We got that light. Now we're going to do another one. So Shift D, duplicate. And this one, we're going to rotate the other direction. So rotate Z 180. And with this one, I'm going to switch my transform to local, and I'm going to point it down a bit like that, just so we can get some more light down into the canyon. And I think this other lamp we just need to perk up a little bit. Let's double check our background. Let's have the background strength. With that in place, let's now get some variation, because right now our lights in the city, they're all one color. Same with the buildings themselves, and that's just not helping us in terms of realism. So we're going to do something similar than we did with the cars, kind of similar-ish. We're going to go with ish. So let's drag this out, and we'll zoom in here so we can see things properly. And let's select, let's get the right materials. So we're going to go to our city tiles, turn that on real quick, and select one of our buildings, the cube. And yeah, building texture, that's the one we want. So what we want to do is, over here right now, this is the bit that's, remember, this all generates the lights and then the building sort of texture itself, the sort of line hash pattern that we've got. And, it's all being piped in through the bump and the normal. And then this bit here is controlling, this bit is the lights that we're seeing, and this bit is the building color. And we want to create variation in both. Okay. So to do that, we're going to create a couple of things. We'll create a color ramp. This will be what creates the actual color of our lights. I might Control B and just select a smaller region so that it renders a bit quicker. And then we're going to get a Voronoi texture, my favorite, if you can't tell. I use it all the time. And maybe mapping. No, I don't think we need a mapping because we've got a scale built into it, so that's cool. We're going to need a mix RGB. Okay. All right. So first off, so that we've got a similar effect, I'm just going to grab the same color for our light. Okay. And we'll just do something like that. This color here, because it's telling the computer what to color lights and what to color building, we're going to use this to drive the factor. Okay. And the factor is going to determine the same thing, but we're going to create something more advanced for the colors. I'm trying to explain this. I'm sorry if it sounds a bit nuts. You'll see it as it comes together. So we'll plug the color into the factor, and we can change this value now to just pure white. Okay, so we'll drop the saturation down to 0. So now we're all ones in our RGB. So now it's basically on or off, right? Now it's showing up because the color is being piped into our base color, so it's just showing us what white looks like with the city, white and black. Now, let's grab this color here, and we're going to pipe it in we'll try the top one first, and we'll make this one black, so the same as this color. Now, if I bring this over into our base color, it's going to, yeah, that's obviously we've done that wrong. Okay, so let's flip these. So bring that one, flip that, and make this one black. Okay, so now we've got the exact same effect. Okay, so you see how that's working? I'll just grab this out. So we've created the same effect using the mix node, and the light color, instead of just being a straight color, is now whatever we want it to be in this. So we can drag this out. We can have some of the lights be black now, and some of them are this color. So let's create a couple of different lights, and then and then the other thing is the Voronoi. So this is going to introduce a noise pattern. So it's going to drive. So it'll just be a linear ramp between black and whatever color we set. It's going to be a bunch of different, fractal patterns like the Voronoi looks, and all those fractal spaces between black and white are going to be all these different colors. So I really shouldn't explain anything. I should just do it and hope that you follow along. Because when I try to explain this stuff, man, it's just painful. Okay, so we want to keep them all in the same general space. I don't want to go too nuts with my colors. You could go crazy with it. You could put like vibrant blues and purples. I'm also going to go constant so that there's a straight hard line edge. So you can see what's happening already. We're getting that breakup now where some of the lights are this kind of gross brown color. Why did I do that? That's a gross color. We'll brighten it up and maybe go a bit more like that. So we got a little bit of difference. Okay. Okay, now the other thing we can do is we can change. So right now you can see like this building, the whole side of it is that dark brown, whereas this one's got this big swath of the light tan color, and this one's got the entire side of the building is that orange color. So we can change how large or how large these sections of color are by changing the scale of the Voronoi. So if I drop this down to 1, for example, it's going to be even more in that direction. So you'll see we no longer have just sides of buildings that are tan. We've got whole groups of buildings that are tan. But if I go up to, say, 50, we're going to start seeing the different colors within each side, which right here, for example, is creating a really nice sort of lights on, lights off effect, which is really cool. We could go even bigger with it. 200. It's a subtle effect, and but it's helping. It's starting to break up that light. It's not just this uniform thing straight across the whole of our scene. We can also change how strong those lights are mixed in, like how visible they are, by changing this white value. We can drop that down to a gray to kind of back off the light. But I think this looks okay. This looks good. I'm going to keep it. Okay, so now we want to do the same thing for the buildings themselves, which of course the buildings themselves are coming from this black color. So we can actually just duplicate this system, bring it up, and pipe it into the next one. Now everything's going to go crazy again on us, but never fear. We're just going to delete everything and kill that saturation. Now I'm just going to bring it up to a bit of a light gray. For this one, maybe we'll go like a little bit of brown tint. And this is doing the same kind of thing, except maybe this time we want to go down to 10, even all the way down to 1. Now we can really see what's happening if we make another one and like make it bright red or something. We'll probably stick with 1, I guess. And we're going to, I want to increase, I want to drop the roughness down. Because we're going for this kind of rainy scene. I want to see what it looks like if everything's a little bit reflective. Pull it up some. I made it like 0.26. That creates a nice effect in some of these spots. You can really see it like right here on top of this building. It's looking good. Okay, so let's bring this same system that we've got, the lights and the building color, over to our main object, which is our city generator thing. So let's grab this, and Control C or Apple C. And we can go ahead and hide city tiles. And then let's go to city base. And we've got the city base texture selected. There we go. We'll do something about that in a second so we don't lose those. And over here, just hit Control V to paste. And again, we'll take the color as the factor. And this is going to be the base color. And we will turn this into pure white. And now we've done the same thing for our large area. But for this one, we need to change the scale because we don't need it to be super tiny. We could probably just leave it at 1. And that's going to do what we want. Scale is at 1 already there for that one. We might check it in the trench itself. So I know that when we fly down into the trench, that's when we can really see this thing. So let's just see how it's looking down in here. All right. Nice. We might just see what happens if roughness goes down on this one. Might be a bit too much. Pull it up again, 0.35. Aesthetically, I think it's all right. The one thing I'd say is that our lights, they're tending towards the green, and that doesn't look as nice against this sort of blue worldscape. So an orangish kind of tone would be a little bit better for us in the long run. So what we could do about that is probably this one that's doing it. So let's swing the hue more towards orange. Yeah, it looks a bit better. The other thing is we could take one of these, like this one, and swing it over into the blues. See what happens if we've got some blue lights, which kind of fit the the color palette. And let's check it in the trench. You want to make sure you keep your color palette kind of working together. So don't fight your color palette. Yeah, I think this looks really nice. Those are good colors. These highlights are a bit too strong for me, but we can sort that out later. One thing that is coming up, if you'll notice, all of our really cool cars are flying down the street sideways, which is not what we want. I mean, this isn't. It is the future, but come on, that's just silly. So let's fix that. There's a great way to fix that. You may have run into this on your own already, and if you have, it might have driven you up a wall because it's a bit wild and crazy. So let's go back to solid shade mode. And now the way to fix this is very simple. All we have to do is go to our particles. So let's turn city tiles off again. Traffic, open up traffic, grab one of our emitters. There we go. And what we can do is head over to, where's cache? There it is. So just above velocity, cache. Now this allows us to bake all dynamics. So it's going to take everything that's dynamic. So the particles, any kind of physics simulations you have in your scene, and it's going to bake them, which means frame by frame, figure out where everything should be and save it to disk. So we're going to do that, bake all dynamics. And see, it does it down here, runs through it. You get this red line at the bottom so that you know you're baked. And boom, our cars are fixed. So that was easy. So basically now we can like scrub through easily, and it reads this baked file for every frame. So it knows where everything should be positioned exactly. So you can get those weird effects if you're kind of like jumping around and you haven't baked, because it's trying to like figure out where all the particles and simulation should be. And that can cause issues. All right. Super cool. Making some fantastic progress. We've really kind of, turned up the volume on our realism with the shader and with the environment shader. Let's just have another quick squiz. That looks awesome. Looks really good. I think the final thing we should do is replace out our cars for some actual real car action. So what we can do is select this little guy here, which is our block. And we can hit F3 and type cursor to selected. Snap cursor to selected. So there we go. Now we can go into our cars and select the first car. And you just hit Shift D in your viewport, and it's going to duplicate that car. And then what we can do is we'll drag that one up into our city up here. And I renamed the two animated cars, by the way, Hero Car 1 and Hero Car 2, because I kept getting confused. So anyways, we're going to take this one, make sure it's selected, the one we just duplicated. And we're going to hit F3 and snap selection to cursor right here, this bottom one. And boom, there we go. The car will appear right where we want it. So we'll just position this car. We'll scale it so that it kind of matches the scale of our car particles, at least to the view. And we'll also line it up so that it's pretty much exactly over that little car. So what we do is we select the car that we want to see, our car.00, and then we're going to hold down Control and click on our hero car, which is the one that's animated. And we're going to hit Control P to parent it. So what that does is it's parented. If you open it up, it's underneath it now. So car.000 is now a child of our hero car, which we've animated. So now our car that we want to see is going to inherit the animation. So there it is. You can see it's flying appropriately. So now we just need to turn it off like this one does, so we can navigate to those keyframes, or even just where it goes off frame. So it's out of frame here. So let's hit, let's pick a key. So hit I while hovering over the camera and the monitor icon. Then hit back on your keyboard. And now we can turn this off and set new keyframes. So I'll hit I while hovering over the monitor and the camera. So now that guy turns on. Yeah, it looks good. And now we can just turn off the hero car. So we can clear the keyframes for our hero car and just turn that off like that. And now we won't see it. And we just have our main, this guy, floating in. Looks good. Now, because we're focusing on him, we might want to jazz him up a little bit. I might even scale him up a little bit more. And let's just throw a subdivision surface on him. Maybe we'll just keep it at 1. And let's just see what that looks like rendered. That's really distracting, that blue base thing. Let's just select that. Let's throw city base on it. See what that looks like. All right, cool. Yeah, it looks nice. So by making it smooth with a subdivision surface, it's just kind of making it a little bit nicer. Overall, it's going to stand out a bit better. This is, we'll focus on it. All these others are going to be blurred as they fly by because of the motion blur. So anyways. All right. And then we've got our other car we want to do. So let's do the same thing for our second hero car. And let's find one that has one of these displacement modifiers on it. And we'll Shift D that. And then we can just rotate him to kind of match, scale him down a touch. Yeah, cool. So you can see it inherits all the animation. Of course, it just flew through a bunch of cars and then it totally crashed into the back wall because it's gigantic. So one thing we need to animate on this guy that we haven't is the scale. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll keep him maybe this big. And I think we might start it from here. So I'll hit I. And basically, as we get all the way to here, where it hits that back wall, I want it to be 0. And we'll hit I. So it's actually gone at that point. And we'll see how that looks. So keep him highlighted. Flies in. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Grab that keyframe and just drag it out. I mean, the viewer, their eye is going to be all over the place. They're going to be watching all kinds of stuff, so they're not necessarily going to see that. Plus, we've got all the color and stuff that it's going to be bleeding into, so I think it'll disappear. We could always render it as a separate pass as well as a safety. Yeah. Anyways, cool. So there we go. All right, we've got our HDR in place. We've got our lights working for us. We've got our cars in place. Things are really starting to come together. What's next, you might ask? Well, we've got some really cool stuff coming. Next, we're going to make the platform. So we want to have a landing platform for our vehicle. And I got some cool plans for that. We're going to do some holographic rings that kind of appear and float up to kind of, give the driver a sense of where to land. We'll make our platform a bit bigger, and we'll also add in a bunch of geometry to it using, hey, guess what? Particles. Too cool. How much can we do with particles? Let's find out. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you learned a lot. And thanks again for tuning in. Please keep watching these. Please subscribe. Tell your friends. Call people. Knock on doors. Hand out leaflets. I want to see this channel grow. It's going to be great. And along the way, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And yeah, like, subscribe, ring the bell, get the notifications. You know the routine. Really great spending time with you. I love making these happen, and I'm going to keep it up. So I will catch you next time. Until then, have a great week. See ya.